What's up, Wisconsin? From the Inside Wisconsin studios, Trevor, John, another episode of Inside Wisconsin. It's kind of pretty common. Hey, look at you in the UW Platteville track and field stuff. I like it.
Well, since you shamed me last time,
Sorry.
I thought I could just go through the universities sort of, at how I wanted to, but apparently now I get that they're a wonderful sponsor of the program. I understand, but I just feel like, we mention them a lot, so I could go. But anyway, here we are. Go Pioneers, run fast. As you know, track and field's everywhere. You just need to learn to embrace it.
I'm trying. Hey, that makes me think of something real quick. I mentioned to you the name Don Gehrman, and you didn't know it.
Not offhand, no. Remind me.
This is an incredible track and field athlete from here in Wisconsin. Ran the 1500 and also had seasons and seasons upon the fastest mile. Look him up. Little shout out to my friends in Jefferson for Don Gehrman. I now officially know a track and field athlete that is in the Wisconsin Athletic Hall of Fame and has medal upon medal upon medal. Look him up. We'll talk about it next
medals?
time. Medal ones.
Okay. Because I don't know that perhaps they are the Olympic type or whatever. I think I would know that, but
don't think he has an Olympic medal, but he definitely ran in the Olympics. All right, there. That's my. I don't mean to shame you 2 episodes in a row, but I am really, really grateful that I know something about track and field that you don't. Anyway, moving on.
You knew that, or someone informed you something about track and field that now you know that I don't know?
Somebody 100% informed me about it, and I promised to ask you about it, and I had no knowledge that you did not know who Don Gehrman was, but nonetheless, let's segue. There is nothing I know about baseball or the Brewers or the history of the Brewers or the now of the Brewers that you don't know. But our guy today has a little bit inside knowledge about the Brewers. Lane Grindle with the radio broadcast.
Listen, we've got to be coming to the end of the roster there. I don't know where we're at on this, but I feel like we're nearly saturated. But it is a team that has it is the team that's captured everybody's fancy over the last several years. Obviously, the Packers are here, but they're relative. And then people that sit next to Bob Uecker become fascinating by guilt by association.
Yeah.
And then, listen, and I don't know if people in Wisconsin realize this because they're in Wisconsin, but we're truly blessed with really good radio and TV people. Yeah. Because I'm sitting here in the tri-state area, so I get to see the Mets, really good. Get to see the Red Sox, sort of. Yankee radio is awful. I don't mind saying it. It's John Sterling, and it might be a wonderful man, but it is just not. Susan Waldman might be a wonderful woman, but it's a very hard listen. On TV, they're much better on the Yes Network. Michael Kay and some of the people they have there. All that to say that, in our case, you start with BA, and then when he's gone, good people come in, or you have Uecker, who's this legend, and there are great people that are around him as well that sometimes are overshadowed. But when left to their own devices, Lane and Levering, that's a really good listen. It's the kind of thing that I always tell you. I think I told this to you once. I came back from a golf tournament, and I was driving from Milwaukee up to Door County, and it lasted almost the entire game. And the game ended as I was pulling to the parking lot. And I thought, thank God, because it had gone 12 innings, I'd have just kept driving to listen to it. And there are really great people. We're really fortunate. Good team, good organization, good broadcasters, good baseball.
Yeah. Here we go. Lane Grindle, Milwaukee Brewers radio play-by-play guy.
Inside Wisconsin is brought to you by Baycare Clinic, Blaine's Farm and Fleet, the University of Wisconsin-Platteville, Rolltech, Festival Foods, Capital Credit Union, North Star Mohican Casino Resort, American Family Insurance, Miller Lite, and Aaron's Company.
Maybe it's because I'm partial to the radio, and that's just how I grew up, but this is exciting for me. That's Lane Grindle, Brewers radio play-by-play man. What's up, Lane? Thanks for being here on Inside Wisconsin.
It's great to be with you. Big fan of the podcast. I watch it regularly.
Oh, thanks.
Wait, what you did because I'm on TV? I'm not a fan of the radio. Listen, dude, I'm older than you. I fell asleep with the transistor in my ear.
That's fair. I get it.
Yeah. Which, by the way, now I watch my kids or even my wife and she's got her earbuds in when she falls asleep. And I'm like, why is that like now standard okay? And when we were kids, you had to literally hide the transistor under your radio, like your parents couldn't see that you were going to bed. That like somehow that was going to send you down the road to ruin. But now it's okay.
Yeah, a lot of things are acceptable now.
I want to start with this. So tell me though, because let's talk that medium. Why? And I sit at a desk and I get every game on every channel every night. Why is baseball still so good and still at its best on the radio?
It's a good question. And like, I can only speak from myself, and from my own standpoint, like I enjoy calling baseball on the radio more than anywhere else. Obviously, I think there's an intimacy to it. I think there's the ability with so many games, with 162 games from a Major League Baseball standpoint, plus spring training, that, people can't always schedule their entire day around a baseball game necessarily, like you might on a Saturday. So to be able to bring the baseball game with you wherever you go is an important thing. But I also just think the history of it, for so many years, it was the only way that people could follow their favorite team. And I think that the ability to paint the picture in baseball lends itself maybe more than in other sports, because there is more downtime, there is more chatter, there is more environment that you're able to just kind of step back and let the stadium speak for a while. And I think all those things combined just really make baseball such a great fit on the radio. But I would agree with you. I think baseball on the radio is the best. I have a love for it. And I think, for the rest of my career, as long as they'll let me do it, I'm going to be calling baseball on the radio, because it's what I enjoy more than any other sport and more than any other medium.
You're going to stay here, right? You're going to do that here, because a lot of people, this has been a hard position for people to stick with, Lane. We want you to stay here. Well, that's kind of it, right? Like, the only people that are calling all 162 Brewers games are, or at least the ones that you're allowed to do, right, in terms of rights and stuff, is you and Jeff Levering. You're painting that picture.
Yeah, that's pretty much right. And just to give you an idea of, me being in Milwaukee, we got a dog a year ago and we named it Crew. So I think our plans are to stay here for as long as they'll have us, because we love it here. I've got 4 kids, and they love the community, and we love it here. And I'm a Midwest guy, so really no desire to ever be anywhere other than where I'm at currently. But that's the other thing. You're with the team every day. You're with the team on the road. You're with the team at home. You're in the clubhouse. You get to know the personalities. That's one of the real benefits of doing what we do and kind of being embedded, if you will. You're on the plane with them. You're on the bus with them. And so you kind of understand the daily grind these guys go through. It's not as easy as it looks sometimes. It's challenging. You're away from family. You become your own family, your own baseball family. And there's just a lot of enjoyment with that. Everybody's kind of there for each other. There's a lot of camaraderie. And I think that's one of the things about doing all 162 that just makes it fun, because there's ups and downs. As we know, there's a lot of downs over a 162. Even the best teams have tough stretches and losing streaks. And even the worst teams have winning streaks at some point over the course of the season. And so kind of riding those waves and doing it together is what I think makes it so much fun.
That's what I thought until I saw the Dodgers, who they never lose. A losing streak for them is what, 3, maybe, if they've done that. Like that's just ridiculous. What they've done this year. And then I watched Dave Roberts the other day. He's like, well, we're just trying to get some people healthy and get our people back. I'm like, well, what do you mean? Like, you're fine. And you think they lost Bueller and some of these other guys. It's crazy when it comes through. You spend that much time with guys that, like you said, you can't help but have a relationship. You can't help but, if a guy's going bad, feeling bad about him. But how do we always make sure then when we go, listen, that guy swung at a bad pitch, it's okay to say he swung at a bad pitch. Or if a guy's hitting 210 in his last 2 weeks, go, this dude is scuffling. I always found that if I know people, it actually makes it easier, because they know you and they realize that you're just telling folks how it is. But just, if you would, just sort of how you negotiate your way through those kind of situations.
Yeah, that's a good point, John. That I think the relationships matter in those moments, because if you have the trust and that player or coach or manager or whoever it may be, they know where you're at. Like, they know your intentions are to cover the team. They know that, look, I mean, I'm a Brewers broadcaster. I'm not going to try to act like I'm impartial here. I want the Brewers to win, and they know that too. So I think that does count for something. And I think if you're upfront with guys in your conversations too, they respect that. And so there are guys that have down seasons. There are guys that have tough stretches over the course of the year, and they're not naive to that. It's not like they're in denial that this isn't going the way that I wanted it to. Most of those guys are pretty upfront about it in those periods of time as well. I find sometimes maybe the bigger challenge is when a guy's on a hot streak, or maybe a guy hasn't given up a run in 9 consecutive innings. And the minute you mention that on the air, then everybody's saying you jinxed it. That's sometimes the bigger issue, to be honest with you, is that, when things are going well, nobody wants to talk about it. Everybody just wants to leave that alone. And pretend like it's not happening, because nobody wants to kind of fall out of the tree, so to speak, when you're in that tree and you're hugging on to the branches because you're playing so well. You want to stay in there as long as you can.
By the way, I don't buy the broadcast jinx. I love that people blame that. We are the biggest scapegoat, but yeah, like somehow you're sitting how many hundreds of feet away, or people miles away. Just like, you know what? Where I sit during a playoff game has no basis whatsoever if Christian Yelich is going to get a hit. It's not on me. And if I move to the seat next to me next time, because it doesn't. But there are people, right, swear up and down that they're totally in charge.
The biggest one is with no-hitters. Whenever there's a no-hitter going on, and the Brewers have had a great pitching staff over the last couple of years where there's been a lot of opportunities, in the 5th inning, into the 6th inning, a guy's carrying a no-hitter. And when that's going on, you're constantly getting things from Twitter. And there's people on both sides of it. I will say it. I don't worry about saying it early because it's not relevant.
Right.
But if it's in the 6th inning and a guy hasn't given up a hit, I don't shy away from saying no hitter. And sometimes if they give up a hit in the 7th inning, then somebody will tweet at me because they're upset. Sometimes if I don't mention it in the 6th inning yet, and I haven't mentioned it until the 7th, and people are like, oh, come on, man, just go ahead and say it. I hear it from both sides in those situations. And like I said, we've had a lot of those where it's been kind of close calls going into the 6th or 7th. So I don't buy it. It has nothing to do with it. It really doesn't. And so I'll say it if it's relevant at the time, and then I'll just let people be mad at me if that's the conclusion.
Right.
But we said it when Corbin and Josh had their no-hitter in Cleveland. Jeff and I were on the call together, and we talked about it on the air. We didn't shy away from it. And guess what? They still threw a no-hitter. So I think it was okay.
You got lucky because I'm all in on not talking about it. As a matter of fact, I tell my oldest son, Rhodey, if he or I notice one's going on, I'll be like, hey, the guy throwing the ball for the thing with the ball is doing a thing. And we're on the same, it's super fun. We're on the same page. He knows exactly what I'm talking about. Oh, man.
But you're not saying it, so it doesn't count, even though you're acknowledging it.
That's what I'm telling myself here.
Making sure.
He agrees. Appreciate that. All right. Did you have to become a Brewers fan? You mentioned that you grew up in the Midwest, right? Born in Iowa, went to South Dakota, then Nebraska, and now you're here in Wisconsin. So who is your team? And if it was the Cubs, we'll move on to the next question.
No, I was not the Cubs. I can tell you that. I was a Royals fan, which was painful for a lot of years, being a Royals fan. But, my grandpa was a big Royals fan, and I had no choice. I wasn't real aware of what was going on in 85. I was 4 years old, but I went through some tough years as Royals fan in the 90s. And then they kind of figured things out right before I came to Milwaukee. I got hired by the Brewers in February of 16. So the Royals had gone to back-to-back World Series. In 14, I went to their wild card win over the A's. I went to one of their ALCS games and 2 of their World Series games that year. And then I went to World Series Game 2 in 2015. And they, of course, win it in 15. And then I get the Brewers job a couple of months later. It was like the ultimate mic drop to being a fan of the Kansas City Royals. So, I mean, you went out on top in terms of that. But, but I always had followed the Brewers just being a baseball fan and always had an appreciation for the fan base. That was the thing that always stood out to me as a baseball fan, was the passion of the Milwaukee Brewers fan base. The size of market they have compared to Kansas City. I mean, if Kansas City got to 2 million fans, they were having a parade, even in a decent year. And when I looked at the Brewers and they were routinely drawing 2.3, 2.4 million fans. That just blew me away. Even in down years, they were having these great numbers attendance wise. And so that always stood out to me. The tailgating always stood out to me. My grandpa, as I said earlier, big Royals fan, but he was just a big baseball fan in general. And he would do those bus trips with my grandma, and they would go, they'd be gone for like 2 weeks in the summer, and they go to a different ballpark every night. And he would take all these pictures and send me postcards. And then he would put like a photo book together at the end, and we would look at it when he would get back from them. And so County Stadium was almost always on that tour because of, they could hit that in the Midwest and then hit a couple of stadiums in Chicago on their way out to the East Coast. And now there's very few of those stadiums that are still in operation. I mean, Wrigley's one, Fenway's one, and I think the Rogers Center in Toronto, I know he had been there a couple of times. So it's fun when I go to those ballparks. I always think of my grandpa, to be honest with you, because he spent so much of his summers in his retirement going around to all those historical ballparks and checking out baseball. But that was really a lot of my familiarity with the Brewers was through him and his passion and just following the Brewers in that way. But it wasn't hard to become a big fan once I got here. And I wasn't sure how long it would take me to latch on, but the people in the organization make it really easy. I'm sure you guys have heard that from other people that you've had on in the past that have worked for the Brewers, but it's such a class organization. They treat their people so well. I got treated great when I was at Nebraska. I had no complaints. I thought I would spend the rest of my career there, to be honest with you. And the only thing I was really interested in doing was maybe getting into a Major League Baseball job. And it had to be a Midwest market if I was going to do it. Yeah. And like I said, I was very, very happy there. Thought I was going to spend the rest of my life there. But I had this opportunity, and I can tell you, I never knew that you could be treated the way that the Brewers treat their people. So it's been great in that regard. That makes you latch onto it fast. It makes you love it fast. It makes you cheer for the team fast. And we also have been lucky to have great clubhouse culture and good guys in that clubhouse. And the personalities make it easy to root for them individually too, and collectively, you're kind of in pretty quick.
Lane, I was always curious to that when people come into Wisconsin from out of state, like we're pretty partial to being cheeseheads, and it really is that good when you come here. So thanks for making us feel good about that. It sounds like you've had the red carpet rolled out, which is really cool.
Yeah, it's been amazing. I mean, the people are great. The passion, not just for the Brewers, obviously for the Packers, for the Badgers. I mean, it reminds me of what I experienced coming here from Nebraska, to be honest with you. With all the different fan bases and their love for their sports. And then, like I said, within the organization, I think the Brewers treat their people kind of like Wisconsin people just treat people in general. This is a fairly nice place where everybody gets along and just wants to have a beer and a brat and enjoy some camaraderie.
Did you have to pay have you had to pay in the old swear jar by not calling it AmFam Field? You been good?
I think I've only done it one time, which was shocking to me. And it was early on in spring training last year. That I really thought that was going to be a struggle for me and for all of us, for that matter. But I think I've only done it once, and collectively, I don't even think we're at like 3 or 4 as a group. We have a new broadcaster this year with us, Josh Maurer. So he's not. I mean, it was easy for him to slide in and start calling it American Family Field. But I don't know that I've caught Euchre calling it anything other than American Family Field. And I don't think Levering's done. So I might be the only guy that even did it. And I think I did it once in spring training, like early on in 2021. So I think the fact that the spring training complex is American Family Fields of Phoenix and was that for a year or two before we made the transition in Milwaukee was helpful because we got used to saying it.
You mentioned you take over and you're not traveling. And so you're watching baseball and you're trying to call baseball, which seems great because the pictures are unbelievable. We got HD. Right. It's amazing how much you miss when this is all you get. How crazy was that adjustment when, right? You see this great picture of the tag at second base and it's close, but you can't see the ump, right? Like how difficult did that change your job?
It was really hard. There was parts of it that were okay. Calling pitches off the center field camera was a little easier than doing it from the press box. So there was things like that were all right. But on the whole, it was really, really hard and really challenging. I always told people like 95% of the time you wouldn't be able to tell that we're calling it off monitor, but that other 5%, it's kind of brutal. And I have a lot of horror stories of different plays that happened over the course of us calling monitor baseball that like give me nightmares still to this day. One was it wasn't a home run. It was a foul ball off the bat of Keston Hira in Cincinnati. It was like the final road trip of the year in 2020. And he turns on a pitch from Trevor Bauer, hits it a million miles down the left field line, but you can't tell if it's fair or foul on the monitor. And I don't have a picture of the umpire. So it's one of those, if it's fair, it's gone, and you're holding and waiting for something. And the next picture I get is Trevor Bauer stomping off the mound, punching his glove because he's upset. So I'm like, oh, it's a home run. So I'm like, and it's gone for Keston Hira. And the next shot is Keston walking back to the batter's box to get his bat. It was a foul ball. And so I had to bring it back into the park, which is never what you want to do as a broadcaster. And Trevor Bauer was just mad that he missed his spot and made a bad pitch and almost got taken deep. And so, like, that was just brutal. I was so upset. It's like, we got to get back on the road soon. Like, that's your first reaction as a broadcaster. Instead of going, I got it wrong, you're like, oh, this is why we got to be in person.
Well, I think I speak for the entire state of Wisconsin when I say it is good to have you guys back on the road as well. Never mind the gaff. If you were not alone in 2020 on that. All right.
No.
We will get back into it in segment 2. We're back after this. We're Inside Wisconsin with Brewers radio play-by-play guy Lane Grindle.
Inside Wisconsin is brought to you by Baycare Clinic, Blaine's Farm and Fleet, the University of Wisconsin-Platteville, Rolltech, Festival Foods, Capital Credit Union, North Star Mohican Casino Resort, American Family Insurance, Miller Lite, and Aaron's Company.
Hey, remember to subscribe on YouTube. Leave a review. Smash the like button. Just get with us. J.A., I told you I would go on a Miller Lite hunt while I was on a family vacation in South Dakota. I was successful. I found it there. 12-pack cans.
It is a national brand, right? It's not like this isn't a scavenger hunt for a bobby pin somewhere, right?
Yes. I mean, Miller Lite is available everywhere, but there are times when I'm curious if you can literally find it everywhere like we tell you. And so I'm going to look. Have you given somebody a quiz recently that if there's a Miller Lite in the house?
I found it at the Lawn and Garden Center. I would hope the Miller Lite people,
they do.
Were like, thank God the distributor is doing his job in the Dakotas. Otherwise, we've got an issue.
Just putting what we say to the test. Okay, that's it.
Well,
I know it's available everywhere.
So it is available everywhere. It's available over at Chicago Sky Games, WNBA. Sadly, their season ended. Short of the NBA Finals, but my daughter was there, and so I'd send her, "Hey, are you ready for the game?" Yeah, here I am. And then I always ask her, "Where's your Miller Lite?" And then it's boom, right there.
There it is in the cup holder.
She's never far away. So
way to support the team.
That was before the game started, and the way it ended, an 18-0 run by the visitors. My guess is there's probably more where that came from.
Yeah, she had a couple. Just as long as it was responsibly. Remember, next time you're getting ready to enjoy cold ones with your crew, go to MillerLite.com/Inside Wisconsin to find delivery options near you. Or you can pick up some Miller Lite pretty much anywhere they sell beer, whether it's here or at a WNBA game or in South Dakota. It is always Miller time. Celebrate responsibly. Miller Brewing Company, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, 96 calories and 3.2 carbs per 12 ounces.
Not like you were in Moose Jaw looking for it. It was South Dakota.
Yeah. Found it. We are back in between segments with our guy Lane Grindle of the Milwaukee Brewers. Time for another top 5 list here on Inside Wisconsin, presented by Wisconsin's best engineering school, the University of Wisconsin-Platteville. UW-Platteville offers an affordable engineering program, and its graduates stay in Wisconsin, driving innovation at top companies right here at home. Find out more at uwplatt.edu/engineering. All right, J.A., it is time for this top 5 list. You and I
You're not going to give me another one of these stupid quizzes, right, where I just ace it backwards and forwards?
Clearly that didn't go well.
I hope somebody gave you trouble about that.
Many. There was a lot. Okay. A lot of people gave me trouble. You're welcome. I'm going to do it again. I'm just apparently going to have to do a better job. All right. I asked you if you could come up with your top 5 list. I put one together too of your sports goosebumps moments.
Yeah.
Listen, I know that you've been a place or two in a stadium or a venue. What gives you goosebumps? And I'll share my top 5 as well.
Well, right, and it's what makes sports special, right? It's what gives you goosebumps. That's part of the reason we go. What makes you feel alive. So, so naturally, in all these top 5s, I've come up with at least 8. Very important to know that, as journalists, math is not the thing. I gave the commencement address at the University of Missouri's journalism school one time. And because ESPN does top 10 lists, I said, okay, here we go. I'm going to give you this, but then I'm going to give you the top 10 list. And they're like, yeah, great. And so I went number 11 and the whole place just broke up because we're not math majors. So once in a while we do it. So first you got to tell me if these can count or not. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So like I did after Super Bowl 37. It was in San Diego. It was when John Gruden and the Bucks kicked the crap out of the Raiders.
Mm-hmm.
And I did Sports Center that night after the Super Bowl with Dan Patrick. And I thought, wow, this is a big day. Like I'm doing Sports Center after the Super Bowl with the Dan Patrick. So that was kind of a goosebump moment. I don't know if that counts as a sportsy goo. If not, it's just me bragging. So I don't know if this counts. But it was at Alpine Valley Music Theater, and when Bruce Springsteen broke into Born to Run, I got goosebumps.
That counts.
Okay. Well, okay, but that's not sports related, so I didn't know if I could put it in the list.
Okay.
Here's legit ones. Number 5 makes sense, right? How about the 5th quarter at Camp Randall?
Yeah, good call. Good call.
Yeah, and the 5th and 5th, so I love that. Goes through. That made me. I had to boot out the Cotton Bowl then. Because when OU and Texas play and they enter in at the Cotton Bowl where they play, that's crazy too. That'll give you goosebumps whether you like Oklahoma or you do not. Number 4 was I was at the Georgia Dome for the Final Four in 2013. And if you recall, that was Michigan. Michigan had made it to the final. I think they played Villanova. Anyway, it was Michigan. And I had done Sports Center beforehand, and now I'd done it with Jalen Rose. And Jimmy King, another one of the Fab Four, his buddy was there. So we get in the car to drive over. And that's one of the beauties of Final Four. It's close enough to get over there. So I'm in the van. It's me, it's Jimmy, and it's Jalen. And as we get in, we are met by Juwan Howard. And now we're walking into the Georgia Dome, which is an okay venue. And all of a sudden, the Michigan people spot 3 of the Fab 5 are walking into the building. And now I'm there, and so I don't clearly belong. So I take a step back. I know my place, right? I take a step back and just watch these guys go in, and the place went cuckoo. And so that, just sitting there watching that and how those guys were just, oh my gosh, deified as they walked in, and they hadn't been back since their trips to the Final Four, which apparently, according to the NCAA, didn't really happen, but they did. So that was one of the most amazing things. And you're like, again, knowing your place, not me, step out. Someday, ask me about that at the NBA Finals, about not knowing your place and going, oh, okay, step back. It's a great story in Golden State. Number 3 was when I went to the Rose Bowl for the first time for the game, Arizona State and Ohio State. Jake Plummer, undefeated, was right there. Thought they were going to win. They got beat. But the Rose Bowl, which I had, as you know, is close to my heart. I've always loved, as a kid, watching that and wanting to grow. So the first time I was there, and the teams came through, and I've been fortunate now to be out there and cover both the parade and do their Hall of Fame. And so now I feel like I have some attachment. But the first time, that was crazy. I got a huge goosebump moment at number 2. Was the first time I was at St. Andrews and got to go to the British Open Championship at St. Andrews, and ended up me and Scott Van Pelt and Jason Duffner and Tiger Woods just strolling down the road.
And Tiger's last.
Okay, I'll take that as a good day. And the number 1 goosebump moment I've ever gotten was in a completely empty stadium. Only the participants are there, and just a few media members. and that was in the summer of 21 in Tokyo at the Olympics. I'm in the Olympic Stadium, which should be filled with people, but it's not. But when you're at the Olympics and you see a medal ceremony and you hear the national anthem, that's a goosebump moment. I don't care if there's 60,000 people in there or 6. But when people like Thingmo and Sidney McLaughlin or the American 4x4, when those guys got their gold medals and they play the national anthem and you're at the Olympics, man, those aren't goosebumps. That's just, it's like even now, right now, I don't know if you can see it. Like that's
cool.
Those are goosebump moments.
That makes sense now because every Olympic athlete that's won a medal that we've had on Inside Wisconsin, you ask, how do you do the national anthem now? Because you must realize I'll never do it the same again.
Yeah.
That's really neat.
And
all right, here's my top.
And I will say this as a caveat. You notice Lambeau Field's not on the list, and that's because every time I'm there and I have goosebumps, it's usually in the winter, and I can't just tell if I'm cold or not.
Well, and you grew up down the road. I think that qualifies. All right. I actually have I wasn't in the venue for my honorable mention, but I get goosebumps every single time I hear Bob Uecker call a home run or Matt LePay call a buzzer beater for the Badgers basketball team. Every single time. Every time it gets replayed, if it's live, head to toe goosebumps. Worth mentioning. Here we go. Number 5. I know I talk about it often. It is Woodruff's home run, NLCS Game 1 against Clayton Kershaw. The roof blew off the place. Number 4. Game 3 NLDS. You and I chatted about this a little bit. That is the first Brewers game of my lifetime. I was there. It was 4-1 Brewers that day. The towels in the place. It was incredible. That is it for my Brewers mentions. Number 3. Have you done this? I'm curious. Have you sat in the student section at Camp Randall Stadium for a Badger football game?
No, but I have been within earshot of O Sucks P and
yeah, okay. Got it.
So I don't know if that's still allowed, but back in the day,
there's an FU, eat this, whatever, blah, blah. Yeah, I've been there. I sat in the student section one time. I was 19 years old. It was unbelievable. I want to do it again as an adult and be that weird old guy that's sitting in the student section, but it is that fun. That brought me goosebumps, especially
I love
when
the point, by the way, that we can't trust college kids with the lids to cups anymore. Remember, they used to have that, but they fired the lids at you. They're like, okay, somebody's going to lose an eye. So it's a cup lid anyway.
Yeah. Number 2, the first time I walked through the players' tunnel at Lambeau Field, I believe I was in high school. I happened to get a press pass for the radio station I was working for, and they let you walk onto the field as a member of the press prior to the game and do a lap or two and all that. Walking out of that tunnel was unbelievable to me. Crazy. And I've done it a few times since then. And now on the tour, Bill Jartz walks you down the tunnel. He's talking, not as in like him, but over the PA. And then the door slams open and not quite, but it was close. All right, here's my number 1. And I'm going to send some videos so you guys can actually see this with us. Ryder Cup Day 2, the number 1 tee box there at Whistling Straits. My buddy Jason and I got there before the sun came up and somehow landed a seat in the grandstand on the number 1 tee box. And the sun was rising over Lake Michigan. And there we are at Whistling Straits. The whole thing all because of Herb Kohler.
USA! 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 USA!
John, did you ever get the chance to meet Herb Kohler?
I met him briefly at a Badgers Final Four. He was there seated with his cane. And Scott Silvestre, who is now head of Badgers Properties, Badger Sports Properties down there in Madison, works with the athletic department, swam there. He was kind of Herb's marketing guy and kind of his right-hand man for many years before he left the company. And so he walked by and introduced me to him briefly. We need to get Scott on the show to talk about Herb. So in that regard, that's as close as I came, just a hello in passing, but I'm not so sure that as much as I admire Andy North for what he did for golf with his 2 U.S. Opens and what Steve Stricker has done with his, captain of the Ryder Cup and his great career, or guys like Skip Kendall or guys like Jerry Kelly or Manuel De La Torre, who I told you, I mean, I'm not sure there's anybody that's had a bigger impact on the sport in the state of Wisconsin than the courses that he built, which were extraordinary. And then, because you can build a great course, there are a lot of them, but to get major championships here in a Ryder Cup is unthinkable. You talk about things that didn't happen, that happened. We're always joking things that happened before you were alive. I tell people I'm from Wisconsin. I love to play golf. And like, oh, how many times you played this? I'm like, those courses weren't there when I was a kid, right? None of that happened until I was even out of college. That speaks more to how old I am. But, so that's remarkable. Yeah. The transformation and then what it spawned, right? Because now you got the Bowl and you got Erin Hills and you've got the Sand Valley, is it? Like all these. Like we're a golf destination, man. I get we're not Florida and but like the golf course you can play in Wisconsin and most of them that you can get on is staggering.
True.
That said, and this has nothing to do with Herb Kohler, and I know we got to get back to Lane. That said, we should never undersell Century World up there in Stevens Point, which is amazing.
We are back inside Wisconsin. Trevor, John, Lane Grindle, Brewers Radio play-by-play man. Lane, John and I just talked about our top 5 sports goosebumps moments. I'm curious, in your time with the Brewers, what has caused the most goosebumps while you're in the booth?
So probably neither of them I was on the call for, but 2 that stand out to me is Braun's Grand Slam in St. Louis in 19, right after Yelly had gone down with the injury in Miami and the Brewers were starting to really surge. And that long at bat, and Braun went deep to hit the grand slam. It was just it was an amazing moment. And then for Braun in the clubhouse afterwards to essentially say, I'm not the guy I used to be, but I can still be the guy when I need to be, was pretty cool. And then the other one would be Vogelback's grand slam last year. That one's really unique to me because, and of course, both of them are against the Cardinals, but the walk-off slam from Vogelback, because I was in the booth with Uke that day. And the minute he hit it, I knew that he got it. And so I just spun my chair like around because I just wanted to watch Uke call it. Because how many chances am I going to have to see Bob Uecker call a walk-off grand slam? And so I barely even watched the ball go over the wall. I turned and just watched him. And I mean, I did. I had goosebumps because he nailed the call. It was amazing. And, eventually he turned and started talking to me afterwards. And I was like, oh, yeah, I'm on the air. Like, because I just became a fan in that moment and kind of a fan of Bob as much as I was Daniel Vogelback. And so that was really neat. And those are 2 that really stand out to me. I mean, I've had a chance to call some walk-offs here and there and some cool moments, but those 2 in my time are 2 of the biggest swings that the Brewers have had in the regular season, at least. And so I'll remember those. I'll remember those really, really well.
I was in the newsroom in SportsCenter when the Vogelback home run, and all of us exploded because we're all watching it, and even though we have all the games, you kind of get to where the drama is, so that you're not just randomly watching the Marlins and the Padres, and the whole place, and plus Vogelback, you look at him, right? He looks like Barrel Man, the whole thing. It was fantastic. You say you're sitting there and you're listening and you're watching Uke, and one of my top 5 goosebump moment, which didn't quite make it because it wasn't technically in a venue, but was when I did my first post Super Bowl, and I was doing it with Dan Patrick, and they're playing the opener, and I'm sitting next to Dan Patrick, and I'm looking at it and go, wow, okay, I should just take a little snapshot of this. This is going to be one of my better days at work. When you sit next to that guy all the time, and like I said, we want to talk about you and not you because that's the easy part. But when you sit there, do you ever have a moment where I go, okay, I have to, like you said, oh yeah, I'm on the air? Because it would be easy enough to get caught up in both as good as he is, but the legend and there's a whole lot there that I think you kind of maybe have to get past to do your job like you'd like to do it every day.
Yeah, that's a really good question, and there's some truth in it. I had a real big advantage over other guys that have come in to work with Bob. Jeff had a little bit of this advantage too, in that I didn't work with Bob. I think I worked 4 games with Bob in like my first 5 years with the Brewers, first 4 years with the Brewers. And then I started working with him more regularly over the last 3. And so I've had a chance to develop this chemistry with him off air that has to some degree carried over to us when we're on the air together. And I think that's a big advantage. Other guys had to get hired, come in and kind of work on that on the fly. Jeff had a year where he was in the role that I've been in for a long time, which was kind of the third guy in the booth. And then, of course, by year 2, Jeff ascended into the chair next to Bob at that point in time. So he had a little bit of time with Bob too, where you get to know him a little bit and you kind of understand the ins and outs of Bob and when to get in and when to get out. But yeah, I think there are times because of his personality too. He's such an entertainer. He's a great play-by-play man. He's a great entertainer, and he weaves those two things together better than I think anybody that's ever done it. And it becomes very, I guess, casual would be one of the ways that I would describe it. It becomes this fun kind of weaving in and out of baseball script that you're following over the course of 9 innings. And it is kind of easy to just get lost in that. And sometimes you have to go, oh, wait, yeah, no, like I got to hit the high note still. And I got to punch it when there's a big play and not just it's almost like when you're a role player on a team with a star and you get caught kind of watching that star if it's basketball with the basketball or whatever it is, because you're just in awe of the greatness. It's a little bit that way with Bob, right? Like I'm smart enough to know I'm a role player on that broadcast and he's the star. And so you kind of get caught sometimes just watching the greatness. And I think that's okay, but you do have to be conscious of it because you got a job to do too.
Man, I get caught watching the greatness. That was actually me as a kid, Lane, at County Stadium. Everybody was watching the game. I had the binoculars and I was watching Bob Betts and Bob Uecker up in the booth do their thing. So Jeff Levering told a story about him getting the job by going out to dinner with Bob Uecker in Arizona. Did you get that pleasure as well?
Yeah, it was a little different than Jeff's experience, but very, very similar. I got the job late in terms of spring training had already begun. The games hadn't started yet, but the team had already reported. Everybody was down at the spring training complex. That was kind of the end of my process. So I was doing University of Nebraska athletics, and I was getting ready for the college baseball season. And they called me like 2 days before I was supposed to leave for Nebraska's first series in Charleston, South Carolina. And they just said, hey, we're getting towards the end of this. Can you come down and have dinner with Bob in Phoenix? And then, hopefully we can kind of wrap this thing up. And they hadn't offered me the job yet, but you felt like that was a pretty good step, pretty good indication of what was going on. I had known what had happened with Jeff the year before because it was in, I think, some story I had read in Sacramento. Which is Jeff's hometown. And so I thought that was a good sign, but I really felt bad about leaving Nebraska kind of out of luck for that weekend series. So I said, well, can I come down Monday? I'll fly from Charleston to Phoenix and get down there. And they said, yeah. So I ended up having breakfast with Bob. I think it was Tuesday morning. And we had breakfast in Scottsdale. And I got there first and I'm sitting at the table and I remember seeing him get out of his car and walk in, and it was a, oh my gosh moment. Like, that is Bob Uecker, and he's coming to have breakfast with me. And so we sat there for, I bet it was 2.5 hours at breakfast, and I was pounding coffee. And I wasn't even a huge coffee drinker at the time, but just nervous. It's Bob Uecker. And so I'm pounding coffee. And probably an hour and a half in, I got to go to the bathroom. But he's telling stories. I mean, he's in Bob Uecker story mode, and I don't want to interrupt. It's Bob Uecker, right? So finally, there is this window, maybe 2 hours in. I'm like, hey, Bob, would it be okay if I went to the restroom? And he's like, how long have you had to go? He's like, come on, man, go to the bathroom. So I went, came back, and then we wrapped up. And basically, he stuck his hand out at the end and said, I can't wait to work with you. And that was kind of the, okay, here we go moment. And it was really something to hear him say that. And I think Jeff had a similar experience, maybe a little bit of a difference there, but that's a pretty cool thing when you hear Bob Uecker say that.
Did he make you set up a tee time to go play golf like he did with BA? Did he say?
So I golf, but I'm not BA. Like BA is like a legit 2, probably handicap, something like that. And Levering's gotten pretty good too. I think Levering's like probably legit under 10 handicap wise. I'm a hacker. I mean, like a glorified. If I break 100, I am celebrating and buying drinks for everybody. So I don't get the invite a lot on the road to go golfing with those guys, and which is smart. I would totally disrupt their games. I have played with Bob once. We played a couple of years ago in October, like when the season ended, we went out and played. And I think Bob was like, oof. I think he was kind of like, I don't know if I'm going to give this invite to Grindle. We'll just stick to fishing. Bob and I both love to fish. I fished my whole life. If I can do one thing other than call a baseball game or spend time with my family, I'm fishing. And so I think Bob's like, okay, Grindle's role is going to be to go fishing with me. I'll go golfing with Levering.
When was the last time you were with someplace with Euchre that he didn't know somebody?
Oh, I don't know that I don't know that I can. I don't know that I have a story on that. I have a great story about everybody knowing him, and that was 2019. We're in Arizona,
right,
for a series with the Diamondbacks, and the second to last night we were there, he decides that he wants to eat from the concession stands. And he tells me before the game, like, let's go out to the concession stands and get our food. And I'm like, okay, well, tell me what you want. I'll go get it for you. And he's like, no, I'll go. And I'm like, it's a bad idea. Like, I don't think that's going to go well. Everybody's going to be pointing at you and wanting to take pictures. And, like, you're going to have a hard time getting from the press box to the concession stand. And he's like, no, it'll be fine. That's no big deal. And so we went, and immediately we got off the elevator, and people are pointing, and, it's Bob Euchre in a baseball stadium. Pretty recognizable. And I think the first guy stood and pointed at him for a second, and he goes, Robin Yount. And we're like, no, not Robin Yount. And then a couple other people, came up and asked for a picture. Bob Euchre, Mr. Baseball, a lot of those comments. And then we were in line, and the lady was staring at us for quite a while. And she finally said, I think I know you from a TV show, to Bob. And Belvedere. And so that was interesting, just walking a concourse with Bob Euchre, where everybody's coming up to him and trying to talk to him, and you hear the just a bit outside, like every 5 steps you take, somebody's yelling that on the concourse. Jeez. So that was a good education in, like, is Bob Euchre recognizable outside of Milwaukee? Yeah, very much so.
Yeah. The day I met you, Lane, I actually was standing in the concourse with Bob Euchre and some other people next to me, and to watch them react and go, like, I mean, probably I would do that too. I didn't that day, but I totally get that. John, would you do that? Like, we talk about getting starstruck. Real quick off the cuff, like, I would be. Look, I can't even talk about it. Would you be starstruck, John? Have you met him?
I've been in his presence, but I don't know if I'd be starstruck anymore. Right. I guess over 30 years, I've run into a few folks here and again. But it's different to meet someone. I think all of us, and Trev, I don't know, you haven't quite trafficked in the same place the same way, but so you get used to some of it, but there's a difference between people that you grew up knowing, watching, and were significant, as opposed to that maybe you are contemporaries with or covers. And I always make it like this. When I see Tiger Woods, I have no trouble talking to Tiger Woods. Hey, Tiger Woods. Jack Nicklaus still makes me shake a little bit, right? And they're both arguably the greatest golfer of all time, but one was Jack Nicklaus. And I've had several dealings with him. And even now, like if I walked into a room and visited, I think he would recognize me. But I still would be like, yikes,
Yeah.
Where you just don't have that, I did on set one time with LeBron and Dwayne Wade, and that was totally natural and comfortable. And here it is. But I think if I saw Sidney Moncrief, I might go, oh, damn, there's Sidney Moncrief. So I can see where that happens. But yeah, Euchre would be a little different animal. Or if you go farther away, because we talk about the transistor, the two some I grew up with for the longest time were he and Merle Harmon.
Yeah.
So those two guys were, that was, and that was that's the soundtrack as it were to my childhood. And that's what you had, because you got a Brewer game on TV once every, if you were lucky, 6 or 8 weeks. I mean, it just didn't happen.
Yeah.
So it would be tough.
The thing about Bob when you meet him is that he disarms you so fast, because he hits you with the humor right away and makes you feel like you've known him for so long, that I think that would wear off quickly for most people that meet Bob, because that's just his style. But I agree with you, John. Like, people from my past are the people that, like, when I've had a chance to meet them, sometimes I'm like, whoa. Henry Aaron was that for me. When Bob introduced me to Henry Aaron, I couldn't get words to come out of my mouth. It's Henry Aaron. And Vin Scully was another one where the one chance I had to meet Vin, it was pretty cool and pretty special. And Bob was the same way for about, again, like 10 seconds. And then he disarms you so fast that you feel like you've known him, that kind of just changes with him very, very quickly.
All right, I got to follow up to this dream job thing, and then we will go to break and come back for a lightning round. But one more here. You clearly are living a dream job, Lane, right? This is a place that you thought you'd never be. We all know where John sits on every other night basis these days. And I'm really digging this, but there's one gig that, Lane, you have had that I badly want someday, and it is sitting behind that public address announcer's microphone at AmFam Field. And I believe I was there when you made your PA debut in the playoffs. Did you not? Was that the first time? Was it game 1 of the NLCS?
I have never, so just not to downplay your dream, because I think that's awesome. I've never had a desire to do PA. I did it as a kid. Like, that's kind of how I started on the microphone, was when I was in junior high, I got asked to do Malvern, Iowa, Little Panther football, which was like the 5th and 6th graders football. And I was a 7th grader, and I'm doing PA, and I was an idiot with that job. Like, I was making up fake program ads, and if you have an autographed copy from the head coach, then you win something special, and none of it was real. It was all fake advertisement from me, just trying to add to the environment of a game with maybe 12 sets of parents watching some football. But and then at Nebraska, my last year there, out of necessity, I got kind of pushed into being the PA guy for Nebraska football, and I didn't want to do it, and I fought it, and they were like, "We got to have you do it," because it was like 4 days before the opener, and the previous PA guy, we won't get into it, but he needed to be relieved of his duties, and so they had nobody else, and so I got kind of forced into it, and I was like, I want to be on the sideline, but they wouldn't let me do it, so I had to do the PA. And I'm sorry I'm saying I had to, but I really felt that way. I had to do the PA for my last year in Nebraska. But then with the Brewers, I actually made my debut. Not many people know this, on the PA mic in 2017 for a Cubs series. When Travis Shaw hit that walk-off in 2017 against the Cubs, I actually did the PA for 2 games. I think it was the Saturday and the Sunday of that, because Rob Edwards fell ill and wasn't able to be there. And then when Rob got injured with his knee in 2018, then they had me fill in for the postseason. And I'll be honest with you, I got a kick out of that. That was pretty fun. It was fun to have that role in that environment.
That was a huge game, and it was really, really loud. And I can vividly remember I was sitting in the second deck in right field, and it is my dream. And I remember I have an ear for this, whether it's Rob Edwards or Bob Betts before Rob, or the current gentleman who I've met, but I unfortunately don't know his name. And I knew something was up. Like, that was not a voice I recognized, and it took me all game to realize it was you, Lane. But anyway, great job. Little introduction would be wonderful. All right, third segment number 3. That's next, Inside Wisconsin.
Inside Wisconsin is brought to you by Baycare Clinic, Blaine's Farm and Fleet, the University of Wisconsin-Platteville, Rolltech, Festival Foods, Capital Credit Union, North Star Mohican Casino Resort, American Family Insurance, Miller Lite, and Aaron's Company.
Hey, remember to subscribe on YouTube, leave a review, smash the like button, just get with us. I love that what sticks out to Lane here in Wisconsin is the tailgating. It's like we have is there a national thing about us and our tailgates? Maybe I don't know that because I live here.
Yeah, I don't know. Like there's some spots that are really famous for it, like tailgating at Penn State's really a big deal for their football games. I don't know, honestly, the NFL tailgate scene quite like I do some of the college ones.
Sure.
Some of those places where they have, the thing about Wisconsin, I think that is unique in most of those is just sort of the commonality. Like it's really communal.
True.
And maybe I'm just dumb because people, if they recognize the ESPN guy, are nicer. But like the number of times I've just strolled in and said hi to people because I was short a beer and walked
That's
out
fair.
with a beer is all the time, right? Like I think people are pretty darn congenial and certainly sharing as you walk by.
That's certainly the effect that you have when you tailgate at Lambeau Field. And of course, Festival Foods, the official tailgating and grocery headquarters of the Green Bay Packers. You talked about walking through the tailgates, did you not, with John Buccigross and just getting constantly, like you couldn't make it anywhere. Is that fair?
Well, we did a little bit. Yeah, I remember it was a little kind of wet. We went over and went to the Tundra Trio there a little bit and shook some hands and visited with some people. But yeah, like I just don't think anybody ever runs out of beer at a tailgate because, like I said, you can always just knock on the guy next door.
That would be a major party foul. Make sure to go to festfoods.com and click on the G. That's the Packers G. Get all of the tailgating things that you need. Tailgating this time of year is a little bit different at Lambeau Field. Get that done now. Things change. It gets a little chilly. Festival Foods, the official grocery and tailgating headquarters of the Green Bay Packers. Go there now. Festfoods.com. Get all your tailgating stuff and beer. Don't run out of that. We're back inside Wisconsin with Lane Grindle, play-by-play radio voice of the Milwaukee Brewers. All right, Lane, 2 for me, and then John Anderson's lightning round. There was a game. I believe you were out on the East Coast with Jeff and you on the radio, and I learned that you are afraid of heights. There was a foul ball. Jeff leaned out to catch said foul ball, and I texted Jeff literally as this happened and said, you just made Lane Grindle very sweaty. What happened with you and heights?
I've never liked him. I don't know what, like, I don't have a specific moment that led to it. I do remember my wife's brother used to live in Chicago. This is before we came to Milwaukee. And I remember we climbed on top of his roof once to watch fireworks, and I couldn't get back down. And they had, like, we almost had to call the fire department to come get me off the roof because there was like this ladder that you had to kind of blindly get your foot down on. And I was like, I can't do it. You guys got to get me. I can't do it. I just have never been a heights guy. And when we're in Pittsburgh specifically, or DC's really high, but you don't have the ability to lean out of the booth in DC like you do in Pittsburgh. And Levering, just to mess with me, will lean clear out over the out of the window and like lean over to the TV booth and talk to BA and Rock or whatever, just because he knows I can't stand it. And I'll be like, get back in the booth. Please get back in the booth. Don't do it. Don't do it. Because I start sweating. I really do. It's that and birds. I have a weird fear of birds too. And then they will land, like right in front of the booth, like on the perch and be staring at me. And I have a hard time concentrating and calling the game when that happens. But that's a little less frequent. But Jeff leaning out in Pittsburgh is like an every series thing, and I can't stand it.
It was amazing. And he texted back, I should have had it. So clearly he was going after that foul ball and didn't care how off you were. All right, one more for me here. What is your favorite part about becoming a cheesehead? You've been with us now for some time. I'd like to think that it feels like home for you, but what's your favorite part about being here with us in Wisconsin?
I think the summers. I mean, I know that's kind of a cliche answer, but we've got baseball, we've got Summerfest in Milwaukee, we've got unbelievable weather. I don't think you can beat the weather in Milwaukee. Once summer finally gets here, you can't beat it. And the waterfront and just everything about it. I love to fish. And the fishing here is, I mean, it's significantly better than it was in Lincoln, Nebraska. So I've got my people that I go fishing with on off days, and Yeah, you can't beat that. To me, summers in Wisconsin are the best. I mean, s'mores, fire pits, the occasional cigar. Sorry, all of that is just it's all better in Wisconsin, in my opinion, and that's what I love about it the most.
Well, I'm Trev. You see, I'm just practicing restraint. I'm not going to talk about fishing. I'm going to move on.
Good boy. Appreciate that.
So, because again, we're just getting deeper between the Nebraska and the Royals and the fishing. Honestly, Lane, I dislike you more with every passing minute.
That's his way of saying thanks.
Yeah, as we go through. Yeah, but I mean it in a lovely way. All right, so I'm just going to fire a bunch of these at you really quick, then I'll stop. Let me hear it. First, for Trevor, tell Trevor who was in the game of the century.
Jerry Taggy, the Nebraska Cornhuskers, and the Oklahoma Sooners.
There you go. And Trevor, the quarterback for Oklahoma that day was a fellow by the name of Jack Mildren, who went on to be the lieutenant governor of the state of Oklahoma for a long time. Okay, Mr. South Dakota, you ever met Tom Brokaw?
I have not, and I don't know how I didn't, because he was the grand marshal of our homecoming parade a couple of different times. But I was a college student and probably had different priorities at that point on a Saturday morning of homecoming.
Mm-hmm.
Best South Dakota athlete right now.
Whew.
I'll give you a
Active.
hint.
What's that?
I'll give you a hint. He's from Kansas City.
Best South Dakota athlete right now.
Yep. Best Coyote.
Yeah, I was a Coyote. That's right. I'm struggling with this one. What's the right answer here?
Well, because I always give a track portion of this show. It's Chris Nilsson, pole vaulter, silver medalist, both the Olympics and the World Championships.
Now, John, do you want to know something that's going to make you like me more?
Sure.
I was a college track athlete. I was a Coyote at the University of South Dakota, and I ran track. So there you go. We got something in common, John.
How? How does this happen?
No. We got another.
But I wasn't the best athlete in South Dakota, I can tell you that.
This happens every episode. Sorry, I'm going to jump in real quick. I know it's lightning round, but this happens every single episode. Somebody has a track connection. I'm done. Go ahead, John.
Okay. When we had Sophia on, we asked her which brewer would give her away. Okay. So now, when we're going to get her married, who will do the service? You, Levering, or BA?
It's Levering, and the reason why is because Levering officiated his sister's wedding, so he's actually ordained and able to do it. So I think the right answer here is Jeff Levering.
Okay, very good. Best hot dog in the majors?
Oh, I'm partial to. Oh man, I didn't have a Fenway Frank when we went there, so I can't even speak to that. I don't mind Dodger dogs, but they're probably a little overvalued, to be honest with you. Honestly, I'm going to go with Milwaukee because those are the ones I eat the most. I go back and get one off the roller in the fifth or sixth inning almost every night. So I think I got to go with what I know.
Listen, I think if you do that with the secret stadium sauce, that's tough to beat for sure. Why is it like 3 radio guys, but it takes 8 or 9 TV people with the crew?
Well, we got 4 radio guys now, so we're catching them over there. But that's probably goes back to BA's national schedule. I mean, he's doing a million national games now, and so we had LePay filling in for a long time on TV, one of the greatest human beings on the planet. I love Matt LePay. And now he's got a lifetime contract with the Badgers, so he's focused on that. Craig Kashan did a great job, and of course Levering now is really the main guy over there for the most part. So it's almost shifting a little bit more toward radio when you start breaking down the roster, which is a new thing because it was like a college basketball coaching staff on TV for a while there, where it was like 10 guys sitting on the bench, all in suits.
Remarkable. Yep. So if you're going to fish, what do you prefer to fish for?
So I like the toothy fish. So like northern walleye. I've never caught a muskie, which is a shame living in Wisconsin. Levering went muskie fishing one time. Levering's not a fisherman. He went muskie fishing one time. He caught a muskie. I didn't talk to him for like 2 weeks. So northern walleye, muskie. That's my wheelhouse.
Give me the Nebraska win total for this season, you think, football-wise?
Oh, man. I wish I could say like 8 or 9. Let's just get them to a bowl game. 6 wins. That'd be great.
Okay. You're going to send somebody out to dinner in Milwaukee. Where are you going to point them?
Carnivore, probably. That'd be one of the first choices that I would send them toward. Pretty hard to beat it.
Good. Love meat. Two left. Give me the best big league hat that's not the Brewers.
Oh, I'm going to go with, man, I've never really given this a lot of thought. I like Atlanta's. I know that it's a little sore subject since they beat us in the postseason last year, but I think that hat's pretty solid. That would definitely be one. And the Yankee hat is pretty iconic, right?
Yeah, okay. Good. Listen, the Royals have a great hat. And if you think the worst that Atlanta if they beat us in the playoffs and not that they actually took the team from Milwaukee many years ago, I guess is good for you.
There's that.
I will tell kids the St. Louis Cardinals hat, if you don't know this, is a great hat that when we were in Mizzou, excuse me, we'd wear when we went out drinking tequila because the instructions are right there on the hat. STL, salt, tequila, lime. So always remember that. If you're ever in a pinch, go out, wear the Cardinal hat. No matter how many you have, you'll never forget. And on that same subject, since you spent a lot of time on college football sidelines, give me the best college football helmet.
Oh, helmet. Well, I like Nebraska's a lot. I think it's good. It hasn't done a lot of winning lately, but I think that's really good. Yeah, I like Ohio State's is pretty good. I think Michigan's is pretty good. The Big Ten has some iconic ones. I would probably go with some grouping of that. Would probably be where I would lean.
I'm with you. I'm kind of a fan of Michigan. Screams that. Same with the Buckeyes. Some of those. Trev, real quick, do you know what the N stands for on Nebraska's helmet?
Nebraska?
Have you never heard that joke?
No.
Lane,
How
you
can I
know
get this wrong? Somebody needs to.
Knowledge.
Oh my gosh.
Indeed, it does.
Oh, that's good.
Buddy. That's fantastic. I'm just going to say thanks and get out of here. And I appreciate you putting up with my faux rage of all these things. It's fantastic. Listen, as I said, having gone to school in Missouri, I respect what the Huskers did and all you did covering that program. I think it's great to be part of an iconic brand like that and touch that. And the Royals, you said, I don't know that there's a better place to go spend an evening than at that ballpark. And when they won, I was happy for a lot of people and my friends. But glad that you are Wisconsin. Glad you are associated with the Mitt and the Brewers. And hopefully it'll be many, many, many years. And you will be sending your kids off to college from there in Milwaukee. Or just sending them over to MSOE or, keep them close to home so mom will be happy.
That's awesome.
Absolutely. Yeah, my kids go to school like a couple of blocks from UWM now, so that wouldn't be much of a transition for them. But we love it here. Thank you guys. Appreciate it so much.
Lane Grindle is way up there on my list in terms of people that I really, really enjoy listening to. And I know that we've maybe exhausted the Brewers broadcast thing. There's a few left, by the way.
I know.
But it was interesting to hear how he did. I don't fish either. Okay, I'll just say that. I know you're not a fisherman. I don't either.
You're outdoorsy. You'll put
I
on
am.
flannel and go sit in a tree and shoot stuff.
Yeah, that I do. I just don't enjoy sitting in a boat waiting for something to grab a line. It's not my thing, but I do enjoy golfing. Lane, apparently not so much.
Not his thing, no. So, which is where I thought we'd touch on, just because, again, I feel like we had way too much fishing talk. And because we should bring it back to golf. And then just as we mentioned sort of the impact of Herb Kohler in the game.
Yeah.
So I have just a brief John, Wisconsin story here. And it incorporates Andy North and Steve Stricker. So Andy every year has his wonderful tournament that raises money for the Carbone Cancer Center at the university down there in Wisconsin. It's usually held at Trapper's Turn. Of course, he helped design down there by the Dells. Yep. And he and Sue have raised just millions and millions of dollars because he's Andy North and he's the nicest human being on earth.
Yeah.
So we're out, we're playing, we're enjoying it. And as I'm coming, we're making kind of the turn, and I'm about to tee off on one. I've started on the backside somewhere. So I'm going to tee off on one. And over here on the 9th green, very close, is Steve Stricker. Okay. And so there are, I don't know, 4 or 5 balls. I think we were in foursomes plus the celebrity. So all these balls are there. And I walk over because I'm thinking, all right, this will be kind of fun, and I'll meet the other group and be nice. And so there's Steve, and I say hello, and I look and I go, you can tell which one's his ball, and it's probably 18 feet away. It's not 10. It's probably not a monster 20. And I look at all the other partners. Okay, I said, that's good, that's good, that's good, that's good. Pick them up. That one you got to putt. So everybody in the group picks up their balls. We all stand over there. Stricker paces, looks down, 18-footer, lines it up, jars, looks at me, goes, we done? I'm like, we're good.
Okay.
That's how good a putter that guy is, right? Like, we know he's a good putter, and pros are like, all pros are good putters, even the ones that say they're terrible. And Steve's a really good putter. Yeah, that's good. That's good. That's good. I'm going to need to see that.
And you do what?
End of story. Walked right back. Said, that's it. He's like, sayonara, I got to tee off. Over to one, shut your mouth. Don't ever do that again. Don't challenge Steve Stricker to make a putt.
Are we done? I think we're done. And that's a wrap on this. Yeah, we're done with this episode of Inside Wisconsin too. Hey, remember to actually subscribe on YouTube. If you're listening to this on the podcast side, leave a review. Click all 5 stars and leave a review. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Share our stuff on Twitter. Smash the like button on Facebook. We're on Instagram. We're on TikTok. You can see us everywhere. Just get with us. For John, I'm Trevor, as you were, Wisconsin.
Inside Wisconsin is brought to you by Baycare Clinic, Blaine's Farm and Fleet, the University of Wisconsin-Platteville, Rolltech, Festival Foods, Capital Credit Union, North Star Mohican Casino Resort, American Family Insurance, Miller Lite, and Aaron's Company.
Shut up and sit down.